40. What's the goal weight, Chris? What are we working towards?
You know, when I did P90X 2 rounds, I got to 207, and I can't really figure myself 33 pounds lighter, but I could see 220.
Do you have more muscle now?
Yeah, I'm a little broader in the shoulders than I was after P90X.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so Fit and Fierce family, it is Monday, April 11th at 9 p.m. And we have a guest speaker with us tonight, Mr. Chris Reed. He's a 10-star diamond coach, 5 times elite, only guy to do that. I think even cooler accolade is his wife is also elite, and they've done that 3 times together. He is the newest member of the Millionaire Club. Congratulations. That's so exciting. 4 CBCs, pretty impressive. That's a goal. And former SWAT team leader, and he's been full-time here since 2012. So we asked Chris to be on the call tonight because he is clearly an incredible leader within our company, but also he leads with a whole lot of heart and passion, and he shared a story with a group last week that I was just so inspired by and love so much that I asked him to jump on the call with us tonight and share that with all of you. So before I start talking away, Chris, do you want to take the floor?
Thank you very much, Carrie and Megan. I appreciate it. Super excited to be on the call. You know, love you gals, and you know, it's always a pleasure to visit with other teams. So, you know, a little bit more background about myself for those of you who don't know. I signed up in 2009. I'm pretty sure it was a scam, to be honest with you, but I was pretty intrigued by 25% off discount, and so I signed up. Somehow or another, figuring that I was going to end up with a closet full of Shakeology, or, you know, I was going to lose my tail. It was somehow or another, you know, too good to be true. But there were people that I trusted that were making money at it. And I'll tell you kind of a little funny story that it's more funny now that I'm aware of what really happened. When I went to a live biz op, right? Back when that's something that people did. And, but, you know, I worked midnights. And so Charlene Booker, a founding coach here in Texas, was hosting this biz op. And so everybody got the invite. I don't remember how, you know, my coach sent me a deal or whatever. And I couldn't make the biz op portion, but the, the diamond meeting I could make. And so I'm not even a coach yet. And so I messaged Charlene and I'm like, hey, I can't make the biz op, but can I stop by for the diamond meeting? And she said, yes. So, you know, I came to the diamond meeting as a prospect. My coach wasn't even there. My coach was in Maine. But it's funny. I mean, if you think about the people that I was sitting down with who were diamonds and maybe star diamonds, in that circle was Barbie Decker, Charlene Booker, Melissa Hudgens, Stephanie Richardson, and Julie Schulte. And, you know, and they were talking about earning money. Right. I mean, I was like so out of place and felt so awkward, you know, that I was there as a prospect and had absolutely nothing to add. But I came home and I was like, wow, this is legit. Because it's funny. I remember Barbie talking about, she's like, I love that they actually talk about that it's okay to earn money, you know, that this is like a business. And so, you know, and they were throwing some numbers out. And it's funny. That was the first time I ever saw genealogy, too. I remember Melissa Hudgens showing a thing that she'd drawn. She goes, we've been doing this all wrong. We were just building everywhere. We should build a power leg. And I was like, I don't know what that means now, but of course, looking back, it's kind of funny. But so, yeah, so I came home and I was like, I think this is a real deal. So I'm going to give it a shot. And so I signed up and I had the mindset, if you see my videos or you watch our YouTube channel, you know, mindset's a big deal to me. And owning responsibility for it is part of my brand too. And so, you know, I came home and I was like, look, if this is legit and it's actually possible to succeed, then I will. And I was really excited about that because as a cop, I had no control over how much money I made, right? So if you work for the government in particular, a teacher or whatever, or, you know, some sort of job where somebody else decides how much money you make, you know, that's not what I was excited about. I was the hardest working sergeant in my police department and the lowest paid because I was junior. You know, my co-sergeant who slept all night behind 7-Eleven and showed up at the end of the shift with like bedhead, you know, he's like, what happened last night? You know, and I was like, well, Sarge, if you were, you know, awake, you could have gone to some of those calls. I wouldn't be running my ass all over town backing my people up. But, you know, this is what happened. But that guy made more money than me, and it pissed me off because, you know, I worked circles around him. You know, eventually we actually, this sounds kind of childish, but we had an award ceremony where my shift was crushing all these records and doing all this amazing stuff. And they had this award ceremony and like nobody got anything. And I was like, wow, you know, why am I busting my ass here at this PD where if I leave, you know, they're just going to hope that the next guy they hire wears the same belt as me so that they can give him my gear, you know, because I'm completely replaceable here. And so that was the deal. I remember sitting in that sergeant's office and I had a P90X manual behind me. I was like, why am I busting my tail here? And I've got this Beachbody thing over here that I'm kind of, you know, just playing with. Now, you know, playing with is relative, right? I made it to Diamond in 6 weeks. I was like, look, I'm going to do this and you know, and I'm going to crush it if it's possible. And I made it to Diamond in 6 weeks, but I was an orphan coach. I think these girls, you know, can relate to that. So I was a Diamond, you know, getting excited about, you know, $120 a week sometimes. And so I was like, okay, you know what, I'm going to do this. And 2 years later, I left the police department because I really started having to ask myself, you know, why am I waking up at 4:30 in the morning, missing another pair of my twin soccer games so that, you know, I can go up here and work at a job where I have no say over how much money I make, you know, and I'm not appreciated and I just don't feel the fulfillment and the passion anymore. So I left the police department and you know, wrote this really fantastic resignation letter where I, you know, talked about I love that job, but I found a better way to serve people and yada, yada, yada. So all of you people who eventually go full-time, write your letter in a way that you can share it later on Facebook and you know, sign a whole bunch of coaches off of it because you quit, because that's what I did. But so the thing that I want to talk about, or that Carrie was talking about, is, you know, I love analogies. You maybe have heard my Zion analogy, and you know, and if you're into this as much as I think Carrie and Megan and I are, and maybe some of you others, like every time you go see a movie, you're like, oh, that reminds me of Beachbody. You know, the poor little underdog. Nobody said they could do it, and they did it anyway. You know, you think about this little snail, Turbo Snail. You know, everybody's like, snails can't be race car drivers, and he's like, oh yeah, well watch this, and he did it anyway. You know, that's what Beachbody was for me. I remember, you know, man, I was, you know, people, good grief. You think you guys had haters. I'm the SWAT team leader, you know, and my guys come up and they're like, hey, Reed, did you go to the bathroom today? I don't think you posted it on Facebook. You know, what'd you have for lunch? I didn't see it on Facebook. You know, you know, they think they're freaking funny. I was like, you watch, man, I'm changing my life. You know, and they're like, oh yeah, you're an entrepreneur, right? And I was like, watch. And guess where all those sons of guns are, right? They're not sitting, you know, next to my swimming pool. They're at work or working an overtime job so that they can make ends meet. But so back on the analogies, here's the thing that I want to talk to you guys about tonight. And it's pretty brief, but you know, we're gonna go, yeah, not next to my waterfall. Is, you know, this business is like a highway, right? This business is like a highway, and some of you just got on the highway. But you know, some of us, I'm a ways down the highway. I'm not near my destination yet by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm farther on this highway than you guys are. Probably, I think so. But you know, not to assume. Sorry, that was not right. But anyway, I'm at a certain part on this highway, and so I almost am clairvoyant in the way that I can see your guys' future, right? Because when I was signing up, I would talk to like Jason Diebold, or I would talk to you know, other coaches, and I'm not scared to talk money. And I'd walk up to Jason and be like, hey man, what are you making now? You know, and he'd tell me, and I was like, okay, well, cool. By the time that I've been in this long, I should be making that. And so so I was using that as my roadmap to say, this is where I need to be at that particular time. And so when I look around and I see these things and I'm able to do the things that I'm able to do right now, this is your future, guys. If you just stay on the same road as me, then this is your future. I'm living, right now in a place where you're going to be if you do the same things that we do. Now, staying with the analogy, there's different ways to move down this highway, right? And there are people like the girls that are leading this team, that they showed up and they were like, holy cow, I'm going to build a big freaking RV and I'm putting a turbo engine in it. And, everybody get on board because we're going down the highway. And, and there's some people, who may or may not be on this call who are still in the garage, trying to decide what kind of wheels they want to put on their car because they haven't read all of the policies and procedures, or they haven't read the whole comp plan. They don't know everything yet. While meanwhile, there's a couple of you other people who, are right now you're on like a Razor scooter and you're just like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm going down the road, and so that person is better than the person sitting in there trying to figure out what kind of tires to put on, right? That stuff drives me crazy. And, there's then you've got these other people who they show up and they're like, hey, you know what's really a hover car. I know everybody else uses tires, but I'm going to do it new. I'm going to build a hover car. And so it's not about reinventing the wheel. No pun intended there. Actually, maybe it is. I'm going to use that later. But, it's not about reinventing the wheel and finding some other way to get on the highway. Just build a freaking car like everybody else. Look at what Carrie and Megan did and build a car like they did. So everybody's moving down this same highway. And as long as you don't, decide, hey, you know what, this sucks, and exit, then you're going to be in the same place that I'm at, or the same place that these other girls are at. It's just what it is that you want to do and how much effort you want to put into it. And the thing is, guys, even if you're on the highway, I recently heard this other analogy or saying where, you talk about working on the plane while you're flying it. That's the same thing with this. Carrie was talking the other day where she was like, she signed up a bunch of people. She's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And we're going to fail like all the time, but we're going to fail forward. We're going to move forward. And I love that because that's what it takes. It takes just moving forward and doing this, building that car while you're going, and then figuring out along the way, you put something on your car and it slows down because you got too much drag on there or something. Maybe it's, you wrapped your car in a Shakeology banner or something like that. You know what I mean? Or, that's not necessarily going to slow your car down, but you spent all this money and you wrapped your car in a Shakeology banner and you're like, well, nobody's called me yet, because no, they haven't. They see your Shakeology mobile driving down the street and they're like, oh, I'm going to Google that later and I'll buy Shakeology. Not from you, just from whoever. So somebody who made Success Club 10 is really excited you got that car wrapped in Shakeology banner. But you just move on down the road, and that's what, where I'm at. What I'm able to see right now is what you guys are going to see. I promise you, that there's no secret, there's no shortcut, right? There's zero shortcut. If you listen to the national coach calls, and you listen to all of these other calls, it's about, following up. It's about tracking. It's about being proof the product's work. It's about personal development. It's about sharing. It's about the same stuff. Every national coach call is pretty much that, right? Because there's nothing else. There's no other lane. There's just this one. And and some people, everybody is gonna make it down that way as long as they keep going. But you have to keep going. If you got a car, a 57 Buick, and you're just pushing it because you hadn't even figured out, hey, I'm going to put a motor in this thing by actually talking to a couple of people every now and then, then you're not going to make it very far down the road. But it's just about moving down the road. Some people are going to quit and they're going to exit, and that's what I said, I won't say the name of the city, but, they exit and they turn back around and they're like, you know what? I was okay where I lived.
Come on, Chris. Where they exit? Come on. Give them the whole story, Chris.
Well, I'm not sure exactly if everybody lives in Shittsville, but if, you're like, this is too hard. I'm going to go back to Shittsville where I was living paycheck to paycheck and, knee deep in credit card debt and couldn't, buy my kids the stuff that they wanted because, I just wasn't interested in putting that much effort into it. So those people turn around, and it's funny, you see them, they're going back the other way, and what they do when they get back to Shitsville, they're like, yeah, that Beachbody thing, it doesn't work, And the thing that I posted a video today, I don't remember if I put it in Heart and Hustle because it's pretty mean, but Beachbody works. The question is, do you work? That's the question. Beachbody works. The question is, do you work, and do you put the effort in? Because it all comes back to you. I talked about the attraction for being able to be responsible for my own level of success. And that's what I love about this. When I have a really bitchin' month, it's because I did the stuff that I needed to do to have a really great month. When I slow down a little bit, it's weird because, I might slow down, but I might still really be having really good results. And I'm kind of sitting back on my laurels because last month I really crushed it. And so those people are coming this month. And then I take this month and I kind of ease up. And then next month I'm like, wow, it's a hard month. Well, yeah, it's a hard month because I freaking slowed down. That's why, it's about what it is that I want to do and about taking ownership on it. If you don't make Success Club, then you're doing it wrong, right? You're not serious about this business. And that's just me being me. People get offended when I say that. They're like, I'm serious about this business, but and I talk to everybody, but I can't make Success Club. And that's crap, guys. That is just not true. If you're serious about this business, you don't go to sleep until you've done the things that you need to do to make sure that you at least make Success Club 5 every month. And and man, my team, they know, when somebody comes to me and he's like, they don't come to me and tell me they didn't make Success Club. They know better than that. But I'll ask them, hey, did you make Success Club? And I already know they didn't, but I want them to show me. And they're like, no. And then, and they know. I'm like, well, why not? And they're like, I didn't try hard enough. Because at least on my team, they know. Don't give me that nonsense about, you know what? Becky said she was going to buy a 21-day fix challenge pack. Or Susie said she was going to buy a PIO challenge pack. Because Becky and Susan are not responsible for the success of your business. You're responsible for the success of your business. And if you put the responsibility for you to succeed in the hands of Becky and Susie, then you deserve to fail. And you will, because it's not important to them for you to succeed. It's only important to you. And you have to think about what it is that you're doing this for and why you're doing it. And if it's important enough to you, then you'll do it. If it's not, then you'll find an excuse. And, and the last thing that I'll close on, and then we can take some questions or whatever, is since I said excuses, man, I hate excuses, and I really hate the noble excuses, right? Those are the ones that people, they just love, they're like, oh, I didn't make Success Club because my kids had a scouting trip. I had to sacrifice for my kids, or I didn't work out today or in the last year, and so I'm 100 pounds over, but I did it for my kids, because my kids are in scouts, and they're in dance, and they're in choir, and they have homework, and so I just don't have time to work out and take care of myself. So that I can spend that time with my kids now, I'm gonna go ahead and cut my life short by about 15 years for my kids, and that's just nonsense, because people don't, if it's important enough, you find a reason to make it happen. You find a way to make it happen. If it's not important enough, then you'll make an excuse. And that's the same thing for everything. Like if somebody was like, hey, can you come over and help me move? I mean, I don't mind helping people move sometimes, but, I don't say, no, I can't. I'm like, no, I got other obligations that honestly are more important than me coming to help you move. And whether those are my family or just whatever, or, maybe it's not, maybe I want to, binge watch Dexter, that's more important to me than helping him move. And so that's what I'll say, so I'm going to close with that one, take some questions. I don't know how long your calls normally run, but I was a little late jumping on, so sorry.
No, you're good. We usually go till 9:30, and there were lots of smiles and laughs throughout this whole thing. And I love that you're so unfiltered. And I've shared with some people that when I first started, my sponsor, Lindsay Catarino, had suggested that we find people in the company that we look up to, that we, relate to or whatnot. And I've been stalking Chris since I started, and he has lots of good nuggets like he shared with you guys all tonight. I think the aha moment for even me and gut check for me was, how do you call it? Honorable excuse.
Right. The noble
Yeah.
excuse. Yeah.
Yeah. I try to give myself those every now and then, and now I won't, because now it has a label, and that's kind of embarrassing. Megan?
I'm laughing over here because Haley messaged me and she says, "Oh my gosh, I love this guy." And I was like, "Yeah, that's the one in the purple pimp suit on the cruise." She was like, "I didn't recognize him without his purple suit."
Work hard, play hard, right?
No, that was awesome. I love the highway analogy and all the cars going down the highway. That's like a perfect way to put it. Do we have any questions over here?
Yep. Advice for getting better at messaging. Just keep doing it over and over. Personal development. I need to work on this.
Yeah. I would say that one of the things that I love doing is ghost, get with your upline, and we I don't know what you guys call it on y'all's team, but we call it like ghosting a conversation, right? So somebody will be like, "Hey, I said this to them and they said this back." And then you shoot that over to your upline in a screenshot and say, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking of saying," right? That's how you be a good student, right? You don't message your upline and be like, "Hey, this is what they said. What should I say?" And make them do all the work, right? You message them and say, "This is what I'm thinking of saying. Should I, how should I tweak this?" And if they're available, then I would encourage you to, with my new coaches in particular, I do a lot of three-way conversations where, if you don't know the answer to the question, or honestly, even if you do, you're like, "Man, that's a really great question. And I'm just learning this, but my upline's been doing this for a while. Would it be cool if I started a conversation, with both of us in there? And that way I can learn what it is, the correct answer, and you'll be hearing it from somebody who is going to actually give you the right information. And you'll really be doing me a solid by letting me do that." So you put it back in their court that, "Hey, you're really doing me a favor by letting me, have my upline talk to you about this so that I get the information." And so they're like, "Okay." And, and you can tell them that you're, that nobody's going to strong arm them. You're not going to gang up on them and be like, "You better buy this," or whatever. I don't even know how you would strong arm somebody into it, but it's just about, because here, there's a couple of things that this does, especially if this is somebody who wants to build a business, then they see already, just right there off the bat, they see that this is not something that they're going to get hung out to dry to, right? Because you're helping that coach, and then that coach, is going to help you do it, and so on and so on and so on. And and if your coach is you want to edify your coach, and say, like, I have to throw humility aside a little bit, but I tell my people, I'm like, just tell them who I am and what I've been able to do, and and they think, "Holy cow, this guy's like some sort of rock star." They don't know that I barely know how to turn on a computer and shower like every 3 days because I'm a full-time coach, or whatever kind of thing that goes on with that is, I'm just like everybody else. The only difference between me and anybody else on this call is time and consistency. Time on the highway and consistency in building my car or building my business, and showing other people, this is how we build a car. Leave your freaking hover mobile, at the garage and put some wheels on something and start moving forward.
I'm having the pleasure this month working with Chris, actually, in one of my groups with some of the leaders on the team. And he's been sharing a lot of his actual message threads with just screenshots, and it's very candid. It's very about that person. He constantly goes back to them, keeps it light. all things that we suggest doing. But one thing that stood out was when he shared bluntly that if he gets an objection, he's like all set. He knows that that person's still going to be following them and whatnot, and maybe the timing's not right, but he just goes on to the next and finds more, like, okay, I got to know, I'm going to go find 3 more people or whatnot. So, I mean, you have a great mindset, and there's no doubt why you're as successful as you are.
Thanks. I mean, and Carrie touched on something there. I mean, these girls, I'll tell you, like Megan and Carrie throw down numbers that I don't see, and you know why? Because they work harder than I do, and they talk to more people than I do. And so, and that's just reality, right? If you look at somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, how did they get, 32 Success Club points? The answer is they talked to more people than you did. I mean, and it's one of those things where, I mean, you talk about, a blind nut finds a squirrel, or a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then, right? I mean, like one of the analogies again I use is like if you went out to like Times Square and like every person who walked by, you're like, hey, you want to buy a challenge pack? 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 999 of those people are going to say no, but one of them will be like, hey, wait, is that a Beachbody thing? Because I've been thinking about that, right? And so that's not how I would suggest that you build your business, but that's the numbers that goes into it. So as you get better, you can be like, you start building that relationship, and you start forming people, and you start doing these other things to where, you don't have to talk to 1,000 people to get one, right? You're never really going to have to talk to that many people, but the better you get, the higher your ratio is going to be.
Right. So true. And it is what they're talking about in here about, continue to keep asking and continue to keep working on how you ask. Would I like to be talked to that way or whatnot? Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, a really good thing about learning how to talk to people too is look back at the conversation that your coach had with you when you signed up.
Mm-hmm.
And see how that conversation went.
Maybe not all of you.
Yeah.
I see some of my earlier Shakeology and whatever posts on Facebook, and I'm just like, I actually posted that. I'm sure some of my messages match that enthusiasm. But yeah, so failing forward, exactly. Any other questions before we wrap it up? I don't know. I think we're good. What about you, Megan? Are you good?
I'm good. This was great.
I'm glad you mentioned Shitsville, and it's very okay with our team. They've heard swear words before. Right. Good input, everybody. Thanks again, Chris, for being on our call tonight. Lots of good nuggets. I'm sure people are going to be sharing this with their teams and listening again. And you're so right about it, being very simple. All the national wake-up calls are very similar. It's just a matter of fine-tuning your craft and being you. So you do that with the best of them. So thanks again for having us, or for being on our call.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, ladies, and everybody else. I see a few guys in there too. See y'all later.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.